And good evening once again, everybody. Welcome back to Hoops HD's Championship Week video notebook. Here, I guess, early Thursday morning, March 10th. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. Joining us, uh, first of all, John Salika. John, how you doing over there?
I'm not doing so well because I still haven't seen Grand Canyon in the whack field yet.
Well, we're going to get to that. We're getting that a little bit towards the end of the podcast. We'll get to the whack field and make certain that that's been taken care of as we were talking to uh, WAC Commissioner Jeff Hurd yesterday. Also, live from Indianapolis, David Griggs.
I'm not doing so well either.
David, what are you doing in Indianapolis?
I came here to meet the committee, and there's no one here. Apparently, they're in New York.
David,
Why didn't anybody tell me that we were going to New York? I mean, I missed the pasta dinner.
I'll tell you what, David. I actually have a box of pasta right here that I'll start cooking up for you. Maybe we'll have it done by the end of the show. How's that?
It's not the same. I mean, there was no correspondence. There was no. I tweeted him, told him I was coming. Nobody told me we were going to New York. When was this announced?
About 6, 8 months ago, John.
Something along those lines.
Well, David in Indianapolis. We'll see if we can get you from Indianapolis to New York, but you might have to hitchhike. I think you used up our entire expense account getting out there.
Well, I mean, they took stupid. You're supposed to be working on
Megabus
getting a
also
license.
has good rates as well.
I mean, what the hell?
Actually, maybe one of those flat rate boxes from the post office. We could just throw them in there, poke a couple holes in it.
I would just drive if you were able to get me my license back.
That's not happening anytime soon. But we want to get right into it. We had a really busy day today. We want to get right into all the games, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up on the brackets on my screen here in about half a second. We did have only one automatic bid handed out today. The final automatic bid until Saturday in the Patriot League, where the unbelievable happened. Holy Cross, after failing to win a conference game on the road all season, won 4 straight in the conference tournament, knocks off Lehigh 59-56, and they're going to the big dance, David.
Uh, Really remarkable. We were talking about this before coming on the air, and you kind of hate it for Bucknell and Lehigh, who did have really good seasons. I would say, I mean, they were hands down better years than Holy Cross, and the whole body of work that is the season, they were clearly more deserving. But this really was remarkable. We were discussing this before coming on the air. We've had teams in 9th and 10th places win conference tournaments. UConn was a 9th place team, I believe, the year they won the national championship. Syracuse has won a conference tournament as a 9th place team. Xavier was actually a 10th place team one year. But there was only one other case that we can think of, and again, if there's others, I apologize, and that was 2008 Georgia, who tied for last place in their league. This was a 9th place team in a 10-team league that won the championship. And really, we watched all 4 of these games. They looked good in every single one.
Yeah, I mean, other than maybe Liberty 2013, which was a 20-loss team heading to the tournament, this may be one of the worst teams in terms of their regular season that I've seen ever make the NCAA tournament. Clearly going to Dayton, unless something crazy happens the end of this week here, they should be in the very last spot on the final seed list at number 68 as well. So, they're going to actually have a game that might be winnable, I guess, in Dayton there.
I mean, I got to think, it's Holy Cross Austin Peay 67-68, and for those that may not be aware, this is a small technicality, but it is a ladder, the NCAA tournament. It's not, 65 versus 68, 66 versus 67. It's a ladder.
Let's move on. We got a lot of games we want to get to, and the other conference with a lot of big games tonight was the ACC. And John, let me bring you in here on these. We had the 4 second-round games, the big game of the day in the ACC, which was being billed up at least as a potential elimination game, and it may end up being that, was this Pitt-Syracuse game. Which did you get a chance to watch that, and what were your thoughts on it?
This doubleheader, I did get to see both games, and they both did live up to the hype. Pittsburgh had actually gotten out to a big lead, but Syracuse was able to successfully throw in some full-court pressure late in this one and actually got the game tied, but they were not able to get the lead, and Pittsburgh ultimately wound up winning the game.
Well,
And then
how much trouble is Syracuse in now, John?
I think Syracuse is going to be in a little bit more trouble considering what other teams below the bubble are going to be able to do now because Syracuse is going to be finished. But Pittsburgh, I think, needed this win a lot more than the Orange did, simply because the Panthers did not have as good an out-of-conference slate as the Orange did.
And the rest of the field here today, we had a good game. Duke, NC State. Duke somehow survived it. An overtime game with Georgia Tech, knocking out Clemson, keeping their faint at-large bid hopes alive. Going into a game tomorrow, Virginia, David. How big is that win if Georgia Tech actually pulls off the win against Virginia?
I still think they have work to do even on top of that. But, I mean, again, it's big because if they lose it, their season is basically done. So, and they get to keep playing as long as they keep winning. But if they get out there and they beat Virginia and Miami, they're going to have a strong case. But I don't know. I mean, Georgia Tech has done some things but in order to feel completely safe, I think they need to win the whole thing. I don't think a win tomorrow puts them in necessarily. Do you guys?
I'm not quite there yet. I mean, obviously, I think if they beat Miami also in the semifinals, or even if Virginia Tech pulls off the upset, but they somehow win that semifinal and make the championship, it's a lot more compelling case. Duke Notre Dame, another real interesting game tomorrow, although Notre Dame has been really heading in the wrong direction lately.
Yeah, they have. Now, they have sort of gotten in the habit of beating Duke. They won at Duke this year. They beat Duke in the championship game, I believe, last year. Was it Duke or North Carolina? I think it was Duke.
One thing I know for sure is that Grayson Allen cannot afford to go knucklehead like he did earlier today against NC State.
Yeah, he's lucky that NC State that ended their season. No one else in the ACC is really dealing with that because, they're going to be somewhat compelled to not stomp on his face if he pulls something like that for, I believe, what's a fourth time. That's a big game. And then Virginia Tech, Miami, everybody was, whoa, wow, how impressive was Virginia Tech today? Can this team make the tournament? They were playing Florida State, who's not a tournament team. If you're not a tournament team and you beat another team that's not a tournament team and that's seated 5 spots below you, that doesn't make you a tournament team. Am I wrong?
I agree with you. I think Virginia Tech gets blasted by Miami. I think North Carolina is going to roll over Pitt tomorrow, so I don't expect anything close, any upset in that game.
Right.
John, the other big game of note tonight came in the Big 12, actually. A huge surprise here, other than the fact that I pointed out last night how well TCU had played in their regular season finale against Oklahoma. Texas Tech didn't bother playing at all tonight, John, did they?
Yeah, I think maybe this is another case where Texas Tech probably read their press clippings a little bit too closely and just put it on cruise control against TCU, which turned out to be a mistake and is probably going to make Texas Tech, instead of wearing white in the opening round, they're probably going to be wearing red or black now, but I don't think they're going to be any danger of being left out of the field.
Oh, I certainly don't think so.
David, I expect West Virginia and Kansas to both roll tomorrow now with their opponents, but what about these other two games? Oklahoma, Iowa State, and Texas Baylor, and we're only in the quarterfinal round.
Yeah, I know. We've got Oklahoma, Iowa State, two teams that could end up on the protected seed line. Iowa State still maybe with a little work to do, but if they win tomorrow, I think they're a protected seed no matter what happens the rest of the way. And how much fun is this? Kansas State, Kansas, big mismatch, but still a nice rivalry. Texas Baylor, that the temperature of that one's pretty hot. And then Oklahoma, Iowa State. I mean, I don't know. This is going to be a fun day tomorrow at the Big 12. It's not nearly as good as one of the rivalries that used to exist in this conference, but
we better move on to the Pac-12 on that, David.
Do we want to discuss that rivalry?
As you can hear the clock ticking, we're not going to have time for that. We got a lot to get through here tonight, but in the Pac-12, David, we had the first round games today.
Tremendous day of action.
Tremendous day. Yeah, how about these 4 games? I guess that last Oregon State-Arizona State was the only one that could be somewhat competitive, and that wasn't even really competitive.
That was a boring game, and it was the least boring of the 4.
Looking at these quarterfinals tomorrow, though, John, I mean, Colorado, Arizona, Oregon State, Cal, USC, Utah. We got 3 games between tournament teams, and maybe a fourth if Washington can pull off the win against Oregon. Could they get it back in the mix here?
I mean, if I'm looking for an upset right here, I'm thinking it's possibly going to be Oregon State against Cal, but it's going to be tough without Trey Tinkle not in their lineup here. But I would expect Oregon, Arizona, and Utah to both hold chalk on their ends.
David, do you think that Washington has any shot here? And if they do you think that they're on the bubble suddenly again?
No. So I guess the second question really doesn't matter. But I don't think they do. Before I say that, I realize that in these conference tournaments, teams like Oregon, teams like Kansas, they don't really come in with any sense of urgency. If anything, not that they want to lose, but if you lose, you get a couple extra days off to just kind of relax. But the thing about Washington, Oregon is that it's a rivalry game. Oregon's going to want to beat them because they hate them, and they will.
One team that did not show up with a sense of urgency is UCLA. It's the first time in 72 years that USC beat the Bruins 3 times in the single season.
Hey, good trivia. I didn't know that.
Let's go over to the Big Ten, where we had the first round games today, as both Illinois and Tim Miles cruised to victories. Setting up games tomorrow, David: Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Northwestern. We're probably still a day away from getting the really good games of this tournament, though, aren't we?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's only one of these games where you have 2 solid tournament teams, and that's the last one, that Nebraska Whiskey game. And again, I'm starting to think, I mean, we're going to get to our board at the end of the show. I was a little surprised that you could have a team that won at a number 1 seed not in the field or on the board. So, I mean, I'm expecting Nebraska to win this tournament, and then it won't matter. But I'm starting to think people aren't taking them seriously.
John, how important is this game tomorrow for Michigan? I mean, is this This is clearly, if they lose this game to Northwestern, you think they're done?
This is the most important game by far in the Big Ten tournament tomorrow, because this is an absolute must-win for Michigan, given all the bubble mess that's going on right now. I mean, it would set up a game with Indiana, which could put them much safer on the good side of the bubble, but they still got plenty of work to do if they want to be dancing come March.
I need to ask a serious question. We have Michigan out. We have them under consideration on our cross-country tournament bracket that we did earlier in the week. They were out. Similar to Virginia Tech, is beating a team that's out, it doesn't put you in. I know Joe Lunardi said something completely idiotic today, that Oregon State's went over Arizona State, put them in. If you're out, you don't get in by beating a team that's also out. So
no, beating the team that's out. I mean, if you lose to the team that's out, you're definitely out, though.
Right? Yeah.
Beating a team that's out, I think, maintains the status quo. I think Michigan wants to feel safe. They better not only beat Northwestern, but beat Indiana.
I think they're out unless they beat Indiana.
Yeah, that's what I said. Beat Indiana.
Yeah. Yes.
You got to set the table before you can eat dinner, David.
Whatever.
Okay. We're going back to
I didn't get to eat dinner tonight because I missed the pasta dinner. I went to the wrong city.
John, the Big East today, we don't have any results on the screen, so let me read them off to you. Georgetown was a 70-53 winner over DePaul, cruised. Marquette built up a big lead against the Johnnies. The Johnnies came back, but eventually won the game 101-93. So we get Georgetown-Villanova, a classic Big East rivalry, and then we've got Marquette and Xavier there, along with Seton Hall, Creighton, Providence, Butler. Do you see an upset by either of the top 2 seeds, and what do you think about the other 2 games?
Georgetown got a pleasant surprise because Bradley Hayes re-entered their starting lineup today. It made the difference against DePaul, but I don't think it's going to help them much against Villanova, even though Georgetown has never lost to the Wildcats at Madison Square Garden. I mean, Xavier should be able to beat Marquette because this is one of their more favorable matchups, but I think the big matchup to watch tomorrow, not Providence-Butler, because I think they're both in, but it's going to be Seton Hall and Creighton because the Blue Jays still have their long shot chance to get into the tournament.
Yeah, the Blue Jays can get it if they win 3 in a row. But
if Creighton wins their next 3, I think they're in good shape.
David, that Providence Butler game though should maybe be the best game of the day, at least on paper, though. for this tournament.
Butler's had a little bit of trouble with Providence this year.
A little bit.
Yeah. Now, Providence has had a little bit of trouble with everyone in the latter part of the conference schedule, so it could even out there. But I don't know. I like how Butler's playing, especially down the stretch, but it's impossible to ignore how bad they looked in both games against Providence.
David, also today we had the 2 first-round games in the Atlantic 10. I know you were glued to your TV watching these 2 games.
Yes.
St. Louis by 5 over George Mason. LaSalle with actually a nice upset win for LaSalle, a team that's already has a couple of upset wins despite being the last-place team over Duquesne. Setting up 4 games tomorrow. The only one involving a team that's anywhere even bubble consideration, I guess, is that GW St. Louis game, and they better not lose that game if they want any shot still.
Yeah, and GW needs to do more than just not lose tomorrow. I mean, they need to get probably into the semis and maybe even further than that. Entertaining games today, but essentially no one can get in without the automatic bid, and I personally don't think anyone's close to capable of winning the automatic bid that played today. Tomorrow's games, not a whole. I mean, Fordham and Richmond's interesting, although I think the winner is done the next day. I don't think SLU has a chance against GW. I don't think LaSalle has a chance. I mean, it's going to look very much like what the Pac-12 looked like today.
Yeah,
they were in a big hurry to get out of the Duquesne-LaSalle game because the lights went out with about 2 minutes to play.
Yeah, the staff left the building.
The staff had enough. It was just time to go.
John, we had one game in the SEC and another thriller here as Tennessee in a real tight one, 97-59 over Auburn. Now we get the Battle of Tennessee here, Vanderbilt, Tennessee tomorrow, along with Florida, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi State. What are you looking for in these 4 games tomorrow?
Yeah, it certainly helps that this is going to be the hometown crowd in Nashville is going to also be taking an extended lunch break tomorrow to catch Vanderbilt in Tennessee. I mean, Vanderbilt does not want to be messing around with their own bubble bid here, so this is another absolute must-win for the Commodores right here. But I think the other game to watch would be Alabama because they still have faint hopes of their own, and they certainly can't afford to take a loss to the Rebels.
And just a real exciting day tomorrow. The tournament's in Nashville. You have the 2 Tennessee teams playing each other, Nashville and Tennessee, and there should be 3,000, maybe 4,000 people at that game.
That's probably about it. You're probably about right. Florida and Georgia, both teams with very, very outside bubble shots here. They probably got to make a run to the title games, but and I don't even know that either one of them necessarily has an easy game tomorrow the way they've been playing lately.
Yeah. Mississippi State's very dangerous down there.
Yeah, I don't think anyone playing tomorrow is in. Unless they get all the way to the final, and that might not even be enough.
Other than Vanderbilt, I assume you mean.
Oh, yes, thank you. Other than Vanderbilt, yeah.
Mountain West Conference, John, we had the 3 first-round games today. As I predicted, that Utah State-Wyoming game was a oh, never mind. But UNLV Air Force may have been the best game of the day. Triple overtime. Vegas on their home, in their home building. I'm not going to say on their home floor because they actually bring in a different Mountain West floor for the games. But 108-102. John, your thoughts on these games?
I think you were the one that also pointed out this was the first time that a game went triple overtime in the Mountain West. Unfortunately, that's going to be good news for Fresno State because UNLV is not going to have much left in the tank for tomorrow.
Yeah,
it was also good to see San Jose State get back into the tournament, but it was a very brief stay.
Yeah, and more good news for Fresno State is that UNLV is horrible anyway.
Just a little bit of news and notes from Mountain West. Actually, it looks like they had been talking about cutting down their conference tournament to 8 teams next year. Looks like they are going to go back on that and keep every team in the tournament.
I like that decision, especially today. I mean, jam-packed. I mean, even UNLV was sparsely attended, but I don't know. Why not? Just let everybody in. And I mean that. Who cares? I mean, the whole point is to get yourself inside the bubble during the season, and if you don't, then you get one more chance. What's wrong with that?
As far as tomorrow's games, I think the New Mexico-Nevada game could be a close game. I don't think it's going to have any bubble impact. San Diego State, I expect them to cruise over Utah State, though. The only team that has some bubble shots here.
Right.
Let's go on. Where are we going to go next? How about to one of our favorite conferences here, America's Conference, the Conference of the
Yes.
People, Conference USA, second round day here. 4 thrilling games with tons of implications. David, why don't you tell us what the meaning of these 4 victories were today?
Well, okay, yes, Chad, and here it is up on the screen. What these 4 games meant today is that the 4 winners have advanced to the quarterfinals.
Okay. And John, how about the 4 games tomorrow? Is there anything you're looking forward to here? And is the 1 seed UAB have anything to worry about with Western Kentucky?
I don't think UAB has to worry, but I would certainly be worried if I were a team like Marshall or Louisiana Tech, because those teams seem to be the most vulnerable to upsets tomorrow.
And Old Dominion, a very talented team that underperformed. UTEP breaking out their Texas Western uniforms tonight. Very impressive there.
Yeah,
Tim Floyd also looked pretty similar to Don Haskins as well.
Yeah, overtime game there, real exciting. UTEP appeared to have it in control, and then FIU came back. And again, a spectacular end to FIU's season with the kid's name slips me. Crotch kicked a UTEP player.
Yeah, it was a flagrant. The flagrant foul they get suspended from the game as well.
All these teams, Chad, need to win the automatic bid. So I mean, it's a 1-bid league. UAB has a bloated record, but Western Kentucky is one of the teams that gave them trouble. And you may recall in last year's quarterfinals, they beat Western Kentucky on a last-second shot. I think it was a missed last-second shot that would have won the game. So they might want to. They might need to be a little worried.
Yeah. Over in the SWAC tonight, we had the first 2 quarterfinals. Texas Southern sweated out Alabama A&M but got the victory. Alcorn State, the 2 seed, was not so lucky. This was an ineligible team under an APR ban that was playing, so we will not have a double court story. We will not have an ineligible team winning. But Mississippi Valley, the upset winner, moving on to the semifinals. Tomorrow, David, Southern versus Alabama State and Jackson State versus Prairie View.
Yeah, a little surprised, especially with Southern getting some of the wins they did in November and December out of conference, that Southern didn't do better in conference. I expect them to win tomorrow, and I think that honestly will be, if it is Southern Texas Southern's most difficult remaining game.
John, we also had the MEAC in action today. Give me a sec here. We'll get this pulled up. This is the first 2 of the quarterfinals, a conference that's historically had crazy upsets, even at this range. And I thought we almost had one tonight with Hampton and Morgan State, but Hampton pulled it out by 2 points, and we actually had the top 2 seeds advance to the semis for probably the first time in the last 15 years.
Not just the top 2 seeds, but also the 2 hometown seeds, so survive and advance for both the Pirates and the Vikings here. But I still think tomorrow we're probably going to have at least one upset, but I don't think it's going to be South Carolina State that falls, because I'm still going to go with them to win this tournament here.
Well, then the only other game tomorrow is Bethune-Cookman Savannah State. I wouldn't actually call that an upset, though. So if you're calling an upset in this tournament, it's got to be Coppin State. They're the only crazy team left, I think.
They've done it once already. So.
Final 2 games that actually were played today, David. We had the Southland Conference kicking off, where we had another fun game. I think we went double overtime here between Nicholls State and McNeese State. A Nicholls State team that had to win its last 3 games in a row just to make the conference tournament. Now moving on with that 94-90 double overtime win.
Yeah, and again, I mean, we saw it with Austin Peay, who had to win their last 2 to make the conference tournament. Here's Nicholls State needing to win their last 3 and go through the ladder format. I think it stops tomorrow, but I don't know. I was wrong about Austin Peay.
How about Southeastern Louisiana, Houston Baptist? That's our other, quarterfinal round game tomorrow.
Yeah, Houston Baptist, I actually watched them quite a bit this year, simply because I was just amazed at the size of their venue and those uniforms that they wore that one day. We had highlighted that on the radar. But yeah, I mean, I like their team. They're recently transitional. They're having probably one of the best years they've ever had since moving up to Div 1. It'd be nice to see them in the semis. Good luck to them. And they're taking on a SELA team that, Chad, you and I watched back in October.
Yeah, we watched them get pasted by an
Yeah.
NAIA school in an exhibition game from one of the worst web streams I've ever seen in my
Yeah,
life.
I was going to say the web stream was real unique. It was like you were actually there and actually had a very crappy seat.
John, coming up tomorrow, we've had a few days off in it, but the Mid-American back in action again tomorrow with the quarterfinals, including your Miami team taking on Buffalo in the nightcap. Akron against Eastern Michigan, Central against Bowling Green, Ohio, Northern Illinois. You seeing any upsets here tomorrow?
Well, besides the one that's going to be perfectly obvious, I would also go with Northern Illinois as a team to watch out for that might surprise Ohio. I mean, I wouldn't expect Akron to lose, and I probably wouldn't expect Bowling Green to get another scalp under their feather.
Yeah, David, this Northern Illinois team that got off to a real good start in conference play, they could be a real dangerous matchup for Ohio in that 2-7 game.
Yeah, it really would be. Ohio's had a really good year as well, but I think that would be, I mean, considering the shape Northern Illinois' program has been in, I mean, they've had a remarkable year despite tapering off at the end, and to see them get to the semis, that would be amazing.
We also have after a day off today when they were playing women's games, the Big Sky back in action tomorrow with the quarterfinals. Only upset winner in the first round was Sacramento State. I think this, I think we're going to pretty much have chalk hold here tomorrow. David, do you agree with me?
I do, yeah.
Okay. We also have the last 4 conference tournaments that have not yet tipped off will be starting tomorrow. Let's start with it's going to be one of the most important conference tournaments in terms of the bubble, and we're being serious here, and that's the American.
Yes.
Where we've got the first round games tomorrow: East Carolina, South Florida, Central Florida, Tulane. Not much implication there, but
no, these do not affect the bubble.
I think the bigger question here globally is who's going to win this conference tournament. Because one of these teams is going to get an automatic bid. It's not going to be SMU. They're not in it.
Yeah.
David.
I don't think they can get in without it, although I really like how they're playing and think that had they not screwed themselves with a sub-300 out-of-conference schedule, they would be inside the bubble. I am going with Houston to win the whole tournament.
John.
I think Cincinnati is a program that's been pretty snake-bitten the past few years, and not just the American, but also the Big East. So I think this is going to be the one year where they finally overcome some of their demons and get the automatic bid. But I hear plenty of free tickets available in this conference as well.
Yeah. I'm actually going to go with Tulsa to win this conference tournament. I just think the bottom half of that bracket is so much easier than the top half where you've got Cincinnati, UConn, and Temple. I think whoever comes out of that top half is going to be in trouble. I know I just went with Frank Haith.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure that you saw the paper today. He is still, if you check their website, he's still the coach. Are you sure you still want to
I think he's going to win the conference tournament. I really do.
Yeah.
John, we also have the first round, quarterfinal round action tomorrow in the Big West Conference. Kicking off here, Hawaii against Cal State Fullerton. We got UC Irvine against Cal Poly. Those are the top seeds. Do you see any upsets tomorrow, and who do you think is going to win this conference tournament?
I don't think this is going to be like 2 years ago where the bracket completely flipped, but I would still expect Hawaii and UC Irvine to reach the finals, but I'm ultimately going to go with the Anteaters to repeat as the Big West champions here. But watch out for UC Santa Barbara as well to possibly make some noise.
Yeah. Well, the only team that you didn't mention is my pick to win it. I think I'm going to see a couple upsets here. I'm going with Long Beach State to take this conference tournament. They swept Hawaii on the season, by the way.
They did.
David?
I'm going to go with Hawaii, but I need to qualify that by saying I wouldn't be surprised if Fullerton beats Hawaii tomorrow. I mean, this conference and this conference tournament, these teams really know each other. It's a true round robin, and I mean, we've seen the bracket fall apart before. It arguably kind of fell apart last year, but I could see Long Beach doing it. Long Beach, one of the things that's going to work against them is their out-of-conference schedule. I mean, I just don't think it got them ready.
I certainly wouldn't be disappointed if Hawaii won, so I can wear their swag for a little bit longer.
Yeah. But you have UC Irvine, who's kind of underachieved, but this is a chance to make it right. You have Santa Barbara, another team that could take out Hawaii that's played really well at times this year too. I think that there's about 4 or 5 teams that I could see getting hot and winning it.
And this conference does reseed after the quarterfinals, so we don't necessarily know what the semifinal matchups would be until tomorrow after the games are done. I just pulled up the wrong conference there, so give me half a second as I pulled up the SWAC when I meant to pull up the Sun Belt. They're close enough, though.
Right.
But the Sun Belt is getting underway tomorrow, and this is another conference where we could have an interesting at-large bid scenario here with Arkansas Little Rock being a potential bubble team should they falter. Although with the double bye format here, they would only have to win 2 games. Tomorrow's game is Georgia State, Texas State, Georgia Southern, South Alabama. David, do you think Little Rock wins this tournament?
I do. I like how they're playing, with the exception of, oh my God, oh Lord, that last game against Texas State.
Appalachian State.
I'm sorry, Appy State, who you don't see on the screen. Yeah, Appy State, who Georgia State, what happened to them in the last couple weeks? Good God.
John, you're picking the Sun Belt.
I think Little Rock wins, but I wouldn't sleep on Texas Arlington either. I think they at least get to the championship game here.
I want to keep an eye on Louisiana Monroe even more than Arlington. I think Monroe is the one that's at the championship game. They've been as hot as anybody in this conference recently, but I am going to go with Little Rock to win it in the end. I don't think it's going to be easy, though. I think Little Rock is going to be challenged in the semis against Lafayette and in the finals against Monroe.
They better win if they want to get into the field this year.
Last but not least, of course, we have the Lopes in the WAC here. Now that things have been
What? Wait. What the hell? Chad, you got the wrong bracket up.
This is the most current one.
Not the right bracket up. That's the old one.
I'm not that certain what's going on here. I was told that it was going to be fixed.
We spoke with the commissioner, and he said he was in favor. We spoke with Mark Emmert. We tweeted it. Mark. Chad!
Well, I will tell you what, David. Let me pull this down here.
I want to call him. Get him on the phone.
What we did last week was we called Mark Emmert. He never got back to us. We're going to do it right now because this needs to be corrected. We are 12 hours away from...
12 hours away?
Well, I mean, 13 hours away from the start of this tournament. This is ridiculous.
Tickets. People are planning viewing parties.
I'm going right off of the NCAA website here. Area code 317-917-6222. Yes. That is the phone number for the NCAA. Let's get Mark Emmert on the phone right now.
Yes.
Thank you for calling the National Collegiate Athletic Association. Our office is now closed.
What? This is championship week.
Business hours.
Championship week.
To 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday.
Is there like a fort?
If you know your party's 4-digit extension, you may enter it now
or press 1 to
request by name.
Press 1. Okay, press 1.
Who would you like to reach?
Mark Emmert.
Mark Emmert. Right.
Mark Emmert. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Calling Mark Emmert.
David, do you want to speak to him now? I'm going to hook it up so you can talk to him.
Yes.
Okay. Mark, you better be in his office.
I mean, I would hope he would be.
Okay.
Not answering.
Oh, here comes.
So you've reached Lisa Curry. Please leave me your name and number,
and
I will return your call. Thank you.
David, go ahead.
Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
I want to leave a message.
Leave a message.
Okay, this is David Griggs from Hoops H. Well, you know who I am. This is David. We've been tweeting at you. We've called you before. We want to know where the what?
Hang up.
She told us to hang up.
Hang up! No,
we're not hanging up.
We're not hanging up.
We are 12 hours away from the start of the WAC tournament.
From the NCAA tournament.
Tell her.
Are not...
To send this message,
press pound.
Yeah, press pound.
Good. Goodbye. This is ridiculous.
Where is he? Chad, I mean, I'm at work. I'm in the wrong city, but I'm still at work. Where the hell is Mark Emmert?
This is ridiculous. We are. Let me show this back. Put this back up on the screen here again. We are just hours away from the start of the WAC tournament, and it still is not showing the Grand Canyon Antelopes as participating. Jeff Hurd, the WAC commissioner, has stated that he believes the Lopes should be eligible. He told us that last night.
Yeah, he did. He did. I mean, you can go back and see.
Well, anyway, what it looks like we have is Utah Valley against UMKC, Bakersfield, Chicago, Seattle, Rio Grande, New Mexico State. David, my pick to win this conference tournament is the Lopes. How about you?
Yeah, it's the Lopes. And that's what I'm going with.
I'm recusing myself from this conversation until Grand Canyon is added.
I know. I don't even think we should even acknowledge that this is going on.
Well, okay. Well, let's move on then. We want to do a couple other things. We do want to update you on our Hoops HD mock committee. We've cast our initial ballots, and we can go ahead and show them right here on my screen coming up now. Just let me give you a quick overview of what we're looking at here. On the left-hand side, we've got our automatic bid winners. There's 13 of them now with Holy Cross. In the middle section, we had 27 teams that were voted in on our initial ballot. So these 27 teams are in the field, according to us, which is more important than what the NCAA says.
And how did that happen? I mean, again, just starting out, this is what you had us do, Chad.
Yes.
You had us. Yeah. Well, you tell them what you had us do.
Yeah. Everyone submitted an initial ballot that had two lists on it. The first list was of teams that you thought were locks. The second list was of teams that you thought should be under consideration. Any team that received at least 8 votes as being a lock got in as an at-large bid, and there's 10 of us in the committee, and we had 27 teams get at least 8 votes.
Yeah.
Now, before my fellow Xavier fans flip out, these are just in alphabetical order, so that is not Arizona ranked number 1 overall and Xavier ranked number 27.
No,
Yes.
everything here has been sorted in alphabetical order.
Yes, and let's clarify that for John Xavier fans. They may not have been able to figure that out.
As far as the second list, any team that received at least 3 votes that either on either list but had not made it as an at-large bid or received at least 3 votes to be under consideration made it into our under consideration board. Yeah, as you can see, it is a huge list right now.
Yes.
Teams like Monmouth on here, Wichita State on here. Some teams that just don't belong somehow made it on here.
Well, the
Teams
first place teams are on there.
Teams like Florida State. Every first place team is on here as well. You see teams like Hawaii, Stephen F. Austin. But what do we see right here? The Grand Canyon Antelopes.
Grand Canyon is under consideration.
So
Now,
they are on our board because
I was going to say, if my math is correct here, we have the 30 remaining regular season champs plus 33 additional teams added under consideration. So we now have 63 teams competing for, at the very least, 10 at-large spots, although we expect more to open up as the weekend progresses.
Right.
yeah, I think it's about 53. I think your math might be a little bit off there because some of those teams were to get up voted in. But we've got about 50 teams. Tomorrow night we're going to have our first meeting. We're going to cut a lot of these teams out of the under consideration board. I don't think we're going to see Texas Southern in the at-large bid discussion after tomorrow night, but who knows? We're also going to go ahead and fill in seats 28 through 36 here on the at-large board. But on that, I'm going to pull down my screen here, and David, I think it's time to do our tweet, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and again, this will take me a second to get it up here. Okay, sorry, things are a little bit.
Okay,
yes.
well, so John, while we're waiting for David,
anyway, can we see it now? Yeah, here we go.
we've been
And again, this is
Go ahead, tell him.
Yeah, this is just again expressing my utter outrage. Why wasn't I told that we were meeting in New York? And this is our nightly correspondence. And I hate to sound harsh and get snippy with Joe Castiglione because, again, we're working with the committee in correspondence with what we're doing, with what Chad just showed you, to kind of, help them, to guide them in the right direction. Is that the best way to put it, Chad?
Absolutely. They should be following us. And in the end, they're going to try to make their own bracket that's going to be close to ours, which is in fact the correct bracket.
Right. So when no one tells me that we're meeting in New York, although you had mentioned something about, you said they mentioned it 6 or 7 times. But
we're going to make sure you get some ice cream, David. So don't worry.
Right. And they open with a pasta dinner, and I missed the pasta dinner, so I'm a little bit upset right now. And this is what I'm sending to Joe Castiglione. There it goes. It's away, and that's our correspondence for the evening.
Okay. On that note, can we bring up our survival board as well?
Yes. Just let's get that up here.
Well, one other note while you talk about it, there was a spot on the board here that we looked at a few minutes ago that way I didn't mention for our Centenary Award winner. That is the award for the worst team in Division One. That will be decided tomorrow night, or should be decided tomorrow night during our voting. So we will update you on that tomorrow night as well. And that team will be on the under consideration board as well. So just want to update everyone on that.
Yeah.
You can find out more about the Centenary Award right up there.
Right
up there.
I'm not going to like the pick, but I already know who the pick is. So.
But here we're heading into today's action on the survival board. We had 202 teams remaining alive, teams that either were under consideration or still a shot to win an automatic bid by winning their conference tournaments.
Yes.
And let's see what happened as a result of all these games we just went through tonight.
Okay, and we're hitting the magic. Oh, man, so we're down to 176.
176 teams remain as of right now. We see that, a lot of teams did drop out. If you want to scroll down there, you'll see teams that are in bold that are definitely going to be in the field. Bold and all caps are locks because they've won the auto bids. And teams in italics, like let's say a team like, I see Wisconsin there in italics. There's a chance they may not make it in.
Right, even though we just voted. Did we just vote them in?
No, we did not. We did not.
Cow. Okay, well.
I'll actually tell you that Wisconsin was the closest call on our board. They were one vote away from being in. I expect Wisconsin to be in our field tomorrow.
Yes, they will be one of the 36. So.
Of course, losing to Tim Miles would not help them, though.
Well, I don't think that's going to send them back.
But on that note, any other thoughts for the evening, John? Let me start with you.
Everyone get some sleep so we can have some lucid deliberations for tomorrow night, because we still have to pick out at least 10 teams from the remaining 56 that I'm seeing on the under consideration board.
Yeah, David.
Well, I'm going to have trouble sleeping until this thing with the Lopes is resolved.
Yeah, I mean, this is an absolute travesty that this was not corrected by, I think, 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. These games are going to be starting, and if the Lopes are not participating in these games, they can't get the automatic bid, and the only way we're going to get them in is if we, as a committee, vote them in as an at-large team, and get the real committee to do so as well.
Yes.
Which was not the purpose of our Lopes waiver movement.
No, it wasn't.
We just said that they wanted to get an automatic bid. Right. We're going to have to resort to giving them an at-large spot.
Right.
And that's going to mean that some very quality team like a Syracuse is not going to make it instead.
Right.
Yes. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow night.